Hello, everyone. My name is Mathew Heggem, and I am joined by the fabulous Margo. Hi, Margo.
Hey.
Hi. And we are here to offer you a presentation where marketing and finance dance. This is about your path towards $1 million firm. And I'm super excited. I'm so honored that we're actually able to do this. We've been talking about working together for a while.
Over 10 years.
Right? Perfect. And now it's happening. So let's just give you a little bit of a background of who we are so you know where we're coming from. I'll go ahead and kick us off and then I'll pass it on to you. Okay. So again, my name is Mathew Heggem. In today's world, I wear what I would call the chief marketing officer hat. And that really has been my background for a long time. I started off in digital marketing communications, particularly in the nonprofit sector, moved into the for-profit world, specifically in the professional services arena, which is where I met you, in the world of accounting. And a lot of my efforts in that world was around business development, sales, and marketing, and ultimately trying to figure out how marketing could be an engine for growth. I had some great successes along the way and have experienced both the best and worst of business, needless to say. But that's exactly what I'm doing today, is really helping people to address the issues in their marketing so that they can turn the knob on their growth. And that being said, one of the things that I've learned is the importance of working with numbers, which is why I'm so honored to be working with Margo here. So Margo, you want to share who you are?
Hi, I'm Margo. Thanks so much, Mathew. I'm really excited that we collaborated to do this and share to the world both of our best genius zones that we've developed over the years. My background is helping business owners, small business owners, entrepreneurs grow, understand their numbers, and beat through that fear. And seeing that change with business owners is just life-changing. And I am so honored to be able to share this topic. It's very near and dear to my heart, how I can help you take the numbers and scale to grow a brand new company that you are proud to wake up to every day.
Awesome. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into our topic today. And what I want to do first is just really give you some context. So obviously it makes sense that our collective experience can address this issue. But for me, ultimately, I think what it came down to is, well, why is this topic so important? So I'll share my piece, and then I know you've got your piece here, right? So for me, what I noticed right away with a lot of the clients that I work with is that there's just so much potential, right? But they get stuck, and really ultimately they get stuck on what I consider foundational issues, like what is your business model, who are the customers that you're serving, and really what is the thing that you're offering them that's unique, that's special, and then ultimately how are you communicating that? But even beyond that, what I've also noticed is that sometimes business owners will have a problem over here, but it's actually a problem over here, and they're just not connecting the dots. And one of those problems, for example, that I see often, which has actually very little to do with marketing, at least initially, is around their bookkeeping systems, right? I can't, for example, sit down and talk with a business owner about how their marketing strategy is if they can't communicate to me how much they're spending and how much they're making. Right. And so that's the challenge I have. It's like I see all the potential, but then I see these super simple or seemingly simple problems that kind of get in the way of actually helping these clients to make a change. So what have you noticed that sort of inspires you in this particular topic?
So connecting the dots is key. And when it's actually a bookkeeping problem and not a marketing problem, is the two are intertwined. And what happens is clients, it just hurts my soul when I see people, they say, I just need that sale. I just need that close to go through. And they have no idea what they're really netting. And just as he said, they don't even really know what they're spending, and how they're making that decision to be able to get there effectively is just so key. And that is the foundation. So this is where you're going to get the value today and get that gold and stay tuned.
Yeah, awesome. And the bottom line, I think, for both of us is that we're both very passionate about helping entrepreneurs and business owners to grow their business. And we have the statement down here, and we made this very clear. This is about the dance between marketing and finance, and it's also about building that $1 million business for yourself. So that being said, as we go through today's presentation, obviously we're only going to be able to hit the surface of a few things. So if you're watching this video online and you have a question that we didn't answer, of course you'll notice at the end that there's a call to action to reach out to us. But otherwise, wherever you're seeing this video online, please feel free to leave a comment, reach out to us along the way, so that we can make sure that we answer some of your more direct questions. So that being said, what we really want to dive into is really how we're going to approach this conversation. And the way that we're going to approach this conversation has more to do with the stage of growth that you're in, and the decisions that you make at those different stages of growth. So what you'll notice in our presentation today is, as we break down these 3 stages, the launch stage, the growth stage, and the scale stage, will provide you with both marketing and finance advice that's appropriate for that level of growth.
So that you don't have to decide, that you can get you can get the best of both.
Exactly. So we have a little chart up here to give you sort of a perspective on what growth looks like. And again, for our purposes, we're going to define it as launch, growth, and scale. But I think this is a really good demonstration visually of what's actually happening as you take your idea or your concept and you bootstrap it up through a process of validation and creating a prototype before you ultimately decide to take that thing into business, into effect. And that at that point is where you move from launch to growth, and you start looking at funding resources beyond yourself as you move towards maturity. Now, not every organization is going to follow the same trajectory. Some people I find are actually very happy to be at certain stages, and conversely are sort of curious about what it's going to take to get to the next stage. So that's sort of our approach to today's conversation. Do you have any other insights or comments you want to share before I move on?
Yeah, so the beginning of this is just, even if you have a business that's technically in our scale stage, we want you to just be open-minded, listen to the presentation, and take your business through the stages that we've prepared for you so that you can see what are some weaknesses or some holes that might be in the business that will strengthen. Because even if you are in the scale, I've seen so many businesses go down very, very quickly.
Crash and burn.
Yeah, literally. And it just hurts my soul because, the owner would be so fascinated about how they grew and they're at that, and then they just collapsed. So
that's a shaky foundation right there.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah. We don't want that for anybody.
So you'll have this so that if you're going back and forth between growth and scale and you're flip-flop, you'll be able to take yourself, even if you go back to growth temporarily, you're going to be able to get yourself back to scale.
Cool. Awesome. So let's dive in and talk really about what's needed before we actually launch this thing, right? And again, keep in mind that our intention is to address firms who are really interested in growing and scaling. But in order to get to that point, you obviously have to go through a launch phase. And so we want to just make sure we're all on the same page about what that means. So if you look at our slide here, we sort of developed a pre-launch checklist, and I'll walk us through this, and please add as you see fit. But really for me, at the end of the day, and I think we agree on this, is you have to know your product or service. Like, what are you actually offering people? I know it sounds kind of obvious. You have to know what market you're in and what industry you're working within, so you have some context, sort of who the competitors are, what the other options are for the customer, depending on what you offer them. And ultimately, you need to understand the need that you're addressing for the customer that you're serving.
Can you give an example of what market is?
Yeah, exactly. So for example, we'll use your market, right? So Margo works in the finance and accounting industry, right? And she serves the small business market, right? So in that example, she's providing bookkeeping services and CFO services to a small business community, right? And so she knows that the needs of those customers are bookkeeping. And what does that mean, really? There's sort of 2 sides to that coin. There's sort of the compliance side, right? Getting the paperwork filed in the right way and the shape and right
form. The day-to-day
form.
versus the compliance
Exactly. And then there's also the sort of management side. It's like, okay, well, how am I doing? Can I run a profit and loss statement that is meaningful to guide me as a business owner? right? But that's her job, and she understands those are needs of her customers, and she works within the industry, and there's compliance components, obviously, and there's structures that work, and she's very clear about what her service is, right? And ultimately what it boils down to is she knows within the context of features and benefits, like she provides this feature or this service, completing payroll reports, right? And the benefit of that is that the organization is in compliance with their payroll requirements, right? So that's a good example of like feature benefit. And at the end of the day, what makes Margo fabulous, I think, a few things that make her fabulous is that she really leads from the heart, right? And she has a couple of industries that she specializes in. For example, I know you're a wizard in the real estate world, right? So that's sort of a unique selling proposition for her. It's like bringing heartfelt mindfulness, if you will, to the finances for her target demographic, or one of her target demographics, which is the real estate sector, which actually brings us into another category of understanding. And this is what's important for us today, because what we're going to be talking about specifically is within each phase, right? How do you relate to lead generation, right? And this is actually something you really brought to my attention as we were preparing for this. Go ahead.
Yeah, because what happens is that if you don't know who you're serving, you can go after all the leads in the world, and you're going to sit with being upset that you didn't close them and that sales are not closing if you don't know who you're serving. So the know your section, it is just so key to be clear. And at times, I mean, I could tell you I struggled with it, and then I had to like go into the market and interview and just talk to people to get that information. You may not know it at first, and even when you know it, you're constantly updating and tweaking from there to adjust.
Exactly.
So understanding, the different types of lead gen and walking into it and not losing loads and loads of money is so clear. I've personally experienced it, and I don't want other business owners to get through that, have that suffering. And knowing the key distinction between cold, warm, and a hot lead, and how to really soften yourself and get into that is just so key. And then promoting to that avatar is actually the last step. So you're going to see that with the different levels.
Exactly. You nailed it. And so to be clear, for example, when we talk about customer needs and market, we are referring to, I'll use you as the example again. It's like, yes, Margo provides accounting and bookkeeping and CFO services to small businesses. But when we talk about her avatar, right, a very specific individual or type of individual that needs her support, of which she's best at providing because of her personality, certain characteristics that make her synergistic with the people that she can work with. There are certain personality types, I'm sure, that are
well, by the way, I actually have a no client list too.
Good for you.
I have a no client list. That's and good. Somebody taught me this a while back. And I'll tell you, the no client list is helpful because it could trigger you. And let's all be honest, not everything is just so easy to deal with. And you don't want to wake up to that every day. It's kind of like, I don't want that in my inbox. And that's okay when you're in business. Because you can choose. The world is massive.
Exactly. So know your avatar is a part of the game, obviously. And then understanding where they are in this lead, warm, hot funnel is important. And then when we talk about marketing, you then are really ultimately communicating to that avatar. And then the last point on this slide is that as it relates to your marketing activities, again, it's based on the stage of business that you're in and the type of income that you're generating, and ultimately the type of work that you're going to be doing with your customers. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get going. But let's dive into stage one, which is my favorite stage, honestly, I have to say. I mean, it's the launch phase, right? It's where you have that idea and you know what you want. You know your customer, you know your service, you know what your USP is, you're ready to go, and you're like, okay, I'm going to open up the gates and just rip out and just start making the magic happen. And so congratulations, you just decided to do one of the hardest things of your life, right?
Absolutely.
Because it ain't going to be easy. And that's kind of why I love this image, because it is like, kind of like preparing for a launch. Like there's some things you got to get sorted out, right? So let's dive in a little bit more to this launch phase and talk about what this means for you. Now, in this slide here, and I'll have you explain the details, but I'll give like the overarching, right? So the overarching concept for this phase is really just about proof of concept, right? You have an idea about what you think is going to work. You're going to get it out into the market and you're going to play with it. You're going to see like, how do customers respond? Do they like it? Do they like the way you do it? Is there a change to your process on onboarding customers that you need to modify because you really are testing the idea out and experiencing what it's like live to develop and iterate that product or service over time. And ultimately the goal here at the end of the day is just to get paying clients. Now, do you want to talk a little bit more about some of the elements of what you identify in terms of the characteristics of this phase?
Yeah. So to launch a business, you have an idea, and we can go into like even the shower and come out with multiple different ideas, and we think we're going to be like the next Richard Branson, or like the Facebook guy, and Zuckerberg, yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. But then it's kind of like, is it going to sell? Are people going to buy? And now there's only one way to find out. We have to talk to them. So you want to validate the business, you have to go to them. And one of the most just easy ways to talk to them is just have a conversation. Now, having that conversation, you can be prepared with lists of questions that will help you to know what they're looking for, so that you can see to tweak and pivot what you're doing so that your offer will be validated by them. Now, you can offer it to them, but you also have to do a lot of listening before that we even offer. Now, to get people like that, you can just focus on low-hanging fruit. You can ask friends that you are cozy with. Like I can ask Mathew when I'm low on work and be like, hey, dude, can you help me out? I want to offer some services. I can use more money. Would you send an email out for me to like 5 or 10 friends? That's an example of low-hanging fruit. And going back to the validation of concept of an idea, you want to see if people like that idea and that they will really buy it. So you're looking at the market and seeing, is it missing? Is it missing for a reason? Are there things like it, and what's going to make you unique? Now, mastering your message on this is a constant journey. So there's no pressure at this stage because you're just beginning. And again, even if you're farther along in the business trail, you at times, and I'll tell you, I've built my own multiple 6-figure firm, and I go back to my proof of concept all the time because I started off doing bookkeeping over a decade ago. Now I'm doing CFO solutions also, and I do tax planning. And to know what I even want to offer is validated. I have to talk to people. So I have to see how I speak to them. So until you're making $5,000 a month, and consistently for 3 months, is really when you can go into the next phase. Now you're going to see on the slide, you have after launch, you say you have the grow and to reinvent. Now, to reinvent, it could be that you need to change it. Like it could be nobody wants bookkeeping, they just want CFO. It could be you're in construction and the commercial business is low and you need to go into the private sector of homes. And then exit, it could just be, it's a horrible idea. And it's at this point where it's great because you didn't invest much at your time. And time is money, but you didn't necessarily put in apps and investments and money and dollars to really. So validating it on as many people as possible is the key. And you want to do, the key to step one is really, it's just so much listening. And a big thing that helped me in this stage was taping my calls.
Interesting. That's good advice.
But the hardest part there is listening to your own.
Yeah, right. You're your own worst critic, but actually be your own worst critic because that's going to be super important. So let's keep going through this, right? And really what we want to talk a little bit now about is some of the elements of finance, because we talked a little bit about marketing and sort of what we expect to see, at least on the revenue side, right? So when we look at your finances and talk about your accounting system, we've employed this idea, the BMM methodology, right? Which is the basics, maintain, and monitor. So let's break that down a little bit, right? So do you want to explain what the basics are just in terms of the 1099 versus W-2?
Yeah, so at this point, sometimes people are building a business and they used to be a full-time employee. So if you're a full-time employee, you're working for someone else, that is a W-2. So you're working for someone, they're dominating your work schedule, they're taking a portion of your taxes as their expense, so they're paying for that. Versus a 1099, you're just getting a complete fee. So let's say you're charging $1,000 a month, $2,500. You're getting a complete sum. So from there, you have to learn to budget, you have to learn to pay yourself, and all those different things. So 1099 is you work for yourself and have to pay your own taxes. W-2, you're working for someone and they're paying a portion. Now, I will go into the slides in a little bit later where you can get your own W-2 and be an entrepreneur, and when that exactly can happen in the most healthiest way. Maintaining this system is so key, because you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. And I'll tell you, my business for the first 10 years, I made most of my money just cleaning up people's books. I never even put people on retainer, because so many people would just keep coming, cleaning up their books, the garbage in that they put. And if you don't monitor that, you're not going to have any cash flow. So I would make money by cash flow engineering, which is like teaching people on how to like pay it on the next cycle and all those different things. But you can just know it from the core instead of having to have 10 strategies to back it up and just knowing it from the core. Now, some people are just like, I just want to offset this to somebody and just outsource it. And Mathew perfected this slide. I said to him, I think this is like the prize slide. But I'm so proud of this whole presentation. I just want to share is that, you know, knowing the basics of an accounting, but you don't have to be the expert, but it's taking ownership as the business owner.
Yeah.
Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, for taking that part and partnering with your potential future person that you're going to hire.
Exactly. It's like this, right? It's like if you want to start, if you want to start a restaurant business, right? But let's say you're not the chef, right? You need to at least be able to talk to the chef, right? And be like, okay, here's the kind of food I want, or here's the experience I want to provide the customers, right? It's not that you have to be the chef. It's not that you have to be the cook in the kitchen, cutting things up and understand, like you want to run a sushi joint. You don't need to know how to handle the fish yourself and prepare it, but you have to at least be able to have those conversations. And it sort of builds that foundation, if you will, of what is business and what it means to operate a business. Now, the other thing we're working on, which I'll share here, we put a little note here, see-free checklist. We are working on a checklist to support this. So if you are interested in that, just reach out to us and we'll let you know. All right, so let's keep moving, shall we? Now, a couple of things not to do when you are in this phase, particularly as it relates to marketing. I'll go through this list, and I know this list actually came from you, but I think this is such a spectacular list. So I'll hit my points, and then I'll pass it on to you to share. So I agree with you on the first one, no fancy websites. I see all the time people like, I need a great website. Yeah, you do, but not now. Like, let's be clear. You just need one page up that people can go to so they know you're real and that you've got something going on, right? And depending on the type of business, you need to make sure certain pieces of content are there, right? But you don't need to go, bullet point number 2, subscribe for every digital marketing course that exists and figure out how to add, like run Facebook ads and Google this and SEO that. Like it's a little too much, I guess we'll say that, right?
Well,
and
you're spending too quickly,
exactly.
which you know will drain you from moving forward and feeling like the business can grow.
Exactly. It's like you're still in proof of concept mode. So you don't want, it's a very expensive experiment.
I went through that personally.
Right.
This is why this slide became so real for me, is because the FOMO was really big for me. Like I had that fear of missing out constantly.
Yeah.
So I did all of these things, and I'm telling you now to do the reverse so that you don't have to go through that reverse stage.
Exactly.
And then just be able to move forward.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this third bullet point here, I think is really important, particularly in the proof of concept phase. Now, I'm a big branding person. I love clear brands. I've gone through rebranding processes myself. Like, if there's somebody that talks about the importance of a brand, it's me. And What I'm saying here is you don't need to go out and create a full-blown brand as if it's the final say.
Well,
right?
here's the thing on that, it's still the proof of concept. So you don't want to waste the time, money, and energy on the brand, because you could do something on like those free Converta. What's that free design the app? There's one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but there's like cheaper,
there's like
easier
free,
ways to go.
And there's even free options. But the thing is that anything that distracts you from the face-to-face of serving your business, because you're on the hunt. You're basically
you're looking
like
for money.
You're on the pavement. Imagine like a runner. You're on the pavement looking to validate your business, and nobody will be in your way. That's how you have to think. You're going on that marathon where you're like, Margo, what are you talking about? I don't want to go on a marathon. I just want to grow my business. Yeah. I hear you, sister, but or brother.
Or other.
Right. But you want to make sure that it's the face-to-face. And face-to-face is hard for some of us. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about that separately, because I know I personally had some of those struggles too, because I didn't know what I was offering. Mm-hmm. So, you can get all of there. But hiring vendors, spending time on the website, hiding behind like an SEO and digital courses, it's just spending time without knowing from the market the proof of concept and validating it.
Exactly. And it is easy to get caught in those traps. Trust me. I mean, I see some branding people charging a ton of money, and I believe in the value.
For those.
Yeah, I believe in the value of paying for experts. We are experts, right? And being clear about like your brand. But the thing is, again, remember, in this stage, it's proof of concept. So 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, depending on how quickly you move through this particular phase, you're going to learn something in the act of service, which is why I like that idea of like just focus on the service, focus on being in direct communication with your prospects and your customers, that will tell you who you need to be and what you can be in the future. So it's an iterative process.
You need to master it first. This is really the key. You need to master it first before you move on to the next step.
Exactly. And so the last point on this one is, I think, just sort of sums that up so clearly, which is the FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, or really setting clear expectations. And so what that means is like, yes, we get it. The Nike swoosh, everybody remembers it. Everybody knows it. But you're not going to build the next Nike swoosh today, right? It takes time. It takes time to develop.
Slow drip that makes that Nike swoosh.
Exactly. So don't go looking at other people thinking like, oh my God, I got to do what they do. No, you got to do what you do.
Which is, to that point, is comparison is the thief of all joy. Exactly. You don't want to say, all of us are guilty of looking at LinkedIn and all the various social media. And let's just be honest, right? It could be a trigger. Yeah. And it could be like where it gets you upset. And then what happens is one thing gets you upset and it leads to more of that. And then our message to the world and how we show up to the world is just not from that heartfelt place. And you don't want to sabotage yourself when you have such a gift to bring out to the world.
Exactly. And so there's Margo's motto, right? Reminding us of what's important here. Your mouth is your system, not automation. So go where your clients are, go talk to them, go to networking events, experience what's possible in conversation with the people that you'll be working with.
Yeah, don't get caught up in apps. Don't get caught up in apps and Facebook Messenger and all of this. It's all about you right now.
Exactly. So in this stage, we have a couple of key recommendations on lead generation. Obviously, you can go to your past clients or past prospects, touch base with them. But then as you expand your network, think about membership organizations, associations, communities, chambers of commerce that make sense for you. Maybe it's because of a particular purpose or a geographic region that you're focused on, right? And then from there, start to look at other groups or associations. Facebook groups is another great space to go. But remember, you're showing up as yourself, you're offering your insights. It's as if you're stepping into a networking environment. So it's not a place to go and, plug in promo, right? And to just throw up your ad everywhere. No, what you want to do is go into the room, the Facebook group, and start talking to people, learn about what they're dealing with, learn about their challenges.
Well, it's commenting. It's commenting for people and just giving them a small tip or a share, so that you could answer their problem or concern, so that they know that you exist.
Exactly.
It's the repetitiveness. And then once you find a platform that is working for you, like for me, it's a lot of LinkedIn. Lately, it's actually been Facebook more. But until you find that platform, you'll have to split your time. So if you have a half an hour a day, you could do 15 minutes and 15 minutes sometimes. And it's good to set a timer for these things. But use this list as a guide, like even your Rolodex. It's really, believe it or not, if you think about clients from the past or somebody who they might introduce you to, if you have 5 friends and they introduce you to 10 people, that's 50 prospects and it costs you 0.
Exactly. The network effect.
The network effect.
Right. And you can also browse through or engage in professional groups or associations. I know you are involved in particular, like real estate communities, for example.
So for specific for my industry, I've narrowed down what I do so that it benefits my niches that I serve.
Exactly.
I do also entrepreneur ones, but the big one has been the real estate for a long time. But the service-based industry is what I'm walking into more. And this is why, I keep saying that I'm excited for this to share.
Exactly. And on my end, for example, I do a lot of work with creative professionals, right? So I end up engaged in arts entrepreneurship groups or communities. It's just a space where you can go to show and demonstrate your talent, knowledge, expertise in conversations with others.
And that's the thing, you never know where it's going to lead you to.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I didn't think I was going to be so diverse. And it's amazing because once you're open, you realize where it connects you.
Exactly. And the bottom line, I love this came from you, is don't throw people away. Love on them, please. Because at the end of the day, it's about building relationships and you really never know what's going to turn into what. I mean, I get calls from people that I met like 3 years ago. I got this woman the other day. She reached out to me through LinkedIn. I met her 2.5 years ago at a conference. Didn't get her business card. I'm gonna be honest, didn't remember, but she remembered my conversation.
So that reminds me of a funny story.
Tell the funny story.
I was in the middle of my son's back to school night, and then all of a sudden I got a text from a client over 5 years ago, and he remembered me and he needed help. He had a one-off problem. I solved it by text. We had a call. And I was able to help him and he was happy. And it doesn't mean that people say no today. It doesn't mean it's no tomorrow or 6 months from now. So it's important to keep notes. Building those relationships are so key. And I say this because, today you might be okay with stage 1 and that's okay. Your life, I'm going to actually share another funny story. I had this prospect who called me once and he was like, I put the lid, and I'm going to preface this a little bit, at $5 million, Margo. And I was like, oh, poor baby. And then he explained to me why he kept it there. And he really had it down to the nail because he didn't want more help. It's where it was guiding his life. But the way I was able to help him was automation. So he built this $5 million business. We had no automation in there in terms of like how he was even posting bills. So not throwing away his information and still loving on him and sharing my blogs and different things. When he was ready, he actually came back to me. So you never know when people say goodbye, but it's important to say goodbye still with love. And it's sometimes so hard because you're like, I just need that sale. But if you get through this presentation today, that's what we want to change and say, it's okay. And you're still going to be okay.
It's all going to be okay. Right. And so awesome. Now let's just say you've accepted it's going to be okay. You're on the adventure.
No, you've accepted.
You've accepted. You are. You have accepted. You're on the adventure and you've made progress and you've worked through the proof of concept a little bit. You've learned something about your customers and their needs and the delivery system that's meaningful for them and the price point that kind of makes sense for you. And you've got a few clients going and you feel the energy and you're like, okay, I'm doing this.
So that's why we created this checklist.
Exactly.
So that you could kind of land the stage a little bit and know where you are, or come back to it and grow on it. So do you follow the requirements of a 1099? Sometimes people are in both. And those are questions when you go out for a consult. Or are you you could actually rewind and say, am I following my procedures right? If you find yourself out of these questions, are you covering your expenses? Are you making a profit? Is your accounting maintained regularly? So if you're like 2 weeks behind, your mail is closed, believe it or not, that counts. I can't tell you how many people that the envelopes are still closed, and then I am completely opening it, and I don't even get those in the mail anymore. It comes by my email, because I know I can't be responsible for that. And it's a true question. Are you ready to grow? Now, people say this all the time. Of course, Margo, I'm ready to grow. Why do you think I'm here? But are you willing to do the work and stay in there no matter what? Exactly. So take a few minutes. You can pause this slide or post the show or our webinar, however you want to call it. Take some time to go through this so that you can give a little bit of a check-in. And any questions, like Mathew said before, I would love for you guys to reach out.
Awesome. So let's know that you did go through your pre-grow checklist and you're like, yeah, I am ready to grow. And again, I underline this seriously a bit because it's going to take a different mindset, right? It's going to take a different skill set to move from the launch phase to the growth phase. And so let's talk about the growth stage 2. Next. And again, similarly, there's sort of a the name of the game, right? And the name of the game here is consistent income. And we've got some metrics here, making at least $5K a month consistently for at least 4 months. You're breaking that 15K mark, or striving to, and just really challenging yourself to hit these revenue targets for yourself. And ultimately, closing has gotten easier. So the pipeline is working, you're doing your lead gen, you're working that network, you're in the Facebook groups, you're talking to people, right? And it's getting easier to close opportunities. Maybe it's because people are referring to you, your clients are referring to you.
You're probably also coming out of your comfort zone. So like at this point, that serious part is also slightly coming out of your comfort zone to take that next step and go to that next level. Because to go to 5 to 15 is hard, depending on your pricing. Your pricing could be $500 a month. So you need more about volume, there. I have higher ticketed prices, so that for me could be less, but I need to maybe necessarily do as much as you to get those. So all those components are key. But the biggest thing is here that closing is going to get easier. Now, not only you're going to focus here on the low-hanging fruit, but you're going to want to grow your email activity because you're going to want to reach out to these people. So like we said before, don't throw away on people, love on them. This is going to be the start where we can share our true messages and our golden messages of love and all these different things of procedures or tips or stories. You can do that through an email, blogs, and all sorts of different ways.
Exactly. And so again, we want you to focus on building that robust pipeline so that really what it boils down to is in this phase of the game, you've got so many leads that you get to be picky, right? Really picky about who you're choosing to work with. And again, go back to the avatar that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, and then you can have a no list. I can't say that enough. A no list is so key. You want to wake up and grow your business every day. You want to love it. I can't tell you like how long I didn't love my business for until I actually had that no client. Because there's certain people that didn't want to take ownership and responsibility, and that's okay. Because when they're ready to step into that, that's when they're ready to work with somebody like me. And back in the day, I was intertwined and I wasn't sure. So getting through that clarity for yourself, take the time and don't put pressure, but it was going to help you through these stages that we're sharing.
Exactly.
Oh, I love this.
So this is, well, aside from the fact that this slide makes me hungry now and I want peanut butter jelly sandwiches, we also, so just like we have the BMM methodology, right?
We came up with this in PB&J,
right? So pricing, budgeting, and justifying. So pricing strategy, this is the stage where you really get to experiment with increasing your prices, doing some upselling, and monitoring that margin to see like, oh, okay, if I modify it this way, but reduce the costs this way. Maybe shift how you're handling your labor costs, for example. And you really start to navigate, well, what's the ideal pricing for this service? What's going to make sense? And how can that then be leveraged to create other avenues of revenue within the scope of services? You're also dealing with budgeting and sales projections in a very clear way, right? You're sitting down, you're looking at the numbers, you're thinking about what you're spending, you're thinking about the return on that, and then you're figuring out, okay, well, if we repeat these behaviors or these patterns, right, then, and introduce this particular service or this particular component and upsell these clients on this service, what are we actually going to project for our sales? And then again, it's about saying, okay, well, can I hit those targets? What is that target? What's it going to take? What do I need to tell my team? If you have a team supporting you, what do I need to tell them to be able to hit that number? And how are we going to manage this growth based on a budget? And the last thing on this slide that I'll share with you, and I'll ask you to make a comment about the note, is really around justifying investments. It's like you're not, just going with your gut, being like, oh, I want to spend money on Facebook ads. And then you go set it up. No, you're thinking about that expense. For example, a great example actually is AdWords, right? I've seen AdWords campaigns cost the organization money about 3 to 5 months before they really start seeing the return. But are you actually able to stomach that 3 to 5 month investment before that money starts rolling in, right? And then when the money starts rolling in, again, all about that budget, are you prepared for what that means for you from a business growth perspective?
Yeah, because it's the same thing like buying a house, right? You're buying the house, but you're not necessarily seeing the return for many years. Or maybe even like your kids are going to see that return. So when you put an investment into like SEO, AdWords, and those bigger things, it takes time to work. Similar to what we're saying about messaging and marketing, mastering your concept, it's mastering this as well. So I actually had a client this week I spoke to, and they were really upset how they made decisions. And I just asked, I kind of knew the answer, but I asked them how they did it. And they were just like, we just decide if we want to, if we feel like it.
And which I appreciate intuition
but what he was like, but Margo, I can't step away from my business. I can't go away with my wife and she's pregnant. So he feels like he wants to hold the computer all the time and like hold all the pieces. So a pricing strategy, sometimes as you walk into this, you might have to charge a little bit less than what you want to, but the people are coming, and then within time, you can get to increasing in sales. It gets into this part where we're saying you're stepping out of that comfort zone and you're becoming more comfortable, but not too comfortable. So justifying the investment and putting yourself on a payment plan, all those sorts of things to be able to pay for these types of things. Now, shifting from 1099 to W-2, this is the point, because if you feel that your business is moving towards $50,000 in profit, it goes into like the type of entity you're going to need to have, and being able now at this point to not just draw a salary, to actually have a W-2 for yourself as the business owner. I remember when I shifted to that, it was like a big deal. It was like, but people who were not in the industry didn't appreciate that like I did. It was almost like I got my diamond earrings or something.
That's funny.
Right?
That's funny.
But, budgeting and sales and justifying the investment, people just work to just go up and up and up, but then they just fall down the ladder.
Exactly.
So shifting from that 1099 to W-2, that stage and the consistency, this is something to start thinking about in your projections.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about the lead gen strategies that are going to work in this phase, right? So obviously networking events are critical. You're making it a routine though. You're getting systematic. You're not going out to everything. You're being very smart about where you put your time and energy when it comes to that, because you're going to be seeking out speaking engagements. You're going to be shifting from the one-to-one to one-to-many strategy. And that's exactly the place where, if you want to get invited to speak at the let's use me as the example, right? I want to get invited to speak in front of a room full of nonprofit leaders or arts organizations, because that's a target demographic that I serve, right? In your example, yeah.
Well, what happens is that you want to be in front of many people instead of that one-to-one in the email list, so that you get so that the pipeline is more robust. So you can do it in different forms. You can be a guest on a Facebook group, on a private Facebook group. You could do webinar summits, all those types of things. You can go on Insta stories even every day. These are types of things that are one to many, and you showing up every day as the face of your business. Now, networking events, making that a routine is hard, because lots of times, I remember when I tried to do this, they were like super early at 7 a.m. where it was with my kids. And then there would be like 6 p.m. where I'm still with my kids, right? Yeah. So it's a choice and a decision, because as much as it could be like the perfect event, Margo, oh my God, but there are others. If it doesn't want to touch on things that are near and dear, like I know there was never going to be a networking event that I was going to choose over my kids. So like I would spend more time researching with Mr. Google on things, on meetups and stuff like that, so that it was around my schedule at something maybe at like 2 o'clock before everyone came home, at like 10 a.m. So referral systems are great. Building relationships, people that are in support of your network. Like for me on the accounting, I have relationships with other accountants, let's say, people who do tax returns. I don't like to do tax returns. I did it for when I had to do it, but now I have the business of my choice. So with a referral system, what you can do is share your information and offer a gift or some type of award or compensation for the person who's going to refer you, so that they feel taken care of. Now, when I first did this, I was like, oh, don't worry, you don't have to pay me. But what would happen is that people would think it was less value of me, that I did not want the money. Because I was like, oh, I'm not about the money.
Like commissions? Or,
yeah.
Okay, got it. Or
but it kind of makes it official when you actually even offer something like $100, $25, that people just feel appreciated. It could be like a Starbucks. It could be like an Amazon card. All these types of things. You can buy a book. All these types of things that people feel taken care of. Yeah. But networking events, the referral system, each one of these is an idea, and you don't have to do all. You choose one and consistent. So at least 3 to 4 months to see what's working, if you need to go to another one.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. So, as you're moving through this phase, right, this is another great Margo's motto here. Avoid the bright, shiny objects. You're going to run into people who are selling you amazing solutions that will bring you incredible results, but only if it's appropriate.
Yeah, just think about it. It's like, it's not the right time. Exactly. And it can be hurtful, because you're like, oh my God, it sounds perfect, and it's going to be the next.
And you want to work with them, and they're really nice, and we get it.
And you get that whole sparky, love thing. But it's just not, you could just say it's not the right time. And you can have the FOMO here too, but it's okay. Love on them and put it on the safe list.
Cool. I like that. And another Margo's motto. This is the hashtag we're trying to build for her, by the way. You are no longer just it.
Because you're building a team, you're building a support team, you're going from that one to many concept. I would never be here today and say that I am a writer. What, Margo? You can't write your own things? No, I can't. Because I know that he is better at it, and it's something that supports my brand in a bigger way, and it helps me spend my time better. Exactly, so you are no longer just it, and sometimes that, it's like your own family, and sometimes that is a big thing for people.
Exactly, I like that. It's like you really should get to shift to working on your strengths and engaging people who have skills that you don't have, and frankly, you don't need to develop them. Right now, there's some things you need to know and hire smart, right? But at the end of the day, you can't do everything
and
yourself.
You learn that through time.
Exactly. So now here we are again, right? Moving from one stage to the next. Now we're going from growth to scale. So we've got a little pre-scale checklist. Here's some bullets to think through. One, you've effectively increased your price. So you've actually had the conversation about pricing strategy. You've run the numbers. You've looked at the budget. You've thought about what makes sense in your labor costs and all the stuff that goes into making $1. And now you're like, okay, You've actually implemented some price increases, right? You're therefore running your organization on a budget. It might not be the best budget. You might need some help with that, right? You might still have questions about what to spend your money on and when to spend your money on and how to make major investments, but you are still working off of a budget, right? And ultimately what it boils down to is you're investing in key resources like a professional accountant or a marketing advisor or even an administrative assistant, again, going back to the previous slide, because you know that you can't grow yourself. You've acknowledged that, you've accepted it, and you also have accepted the fact that you can't know everything and that you need to hire professionals to do a professional job if you really want to grow your organization.
So you're going to feel more toasty here. You're going to feel
like toasty warmer.
Yeah,
oh, okay,
you're going to
like
feel
that.
more toasty. You're going to feel like more in command. You're going to feel like more like a take charge here, but not like in an overpowering way. You're going to feel here like you've made it in life and that you've really, really stepped up. And I say it like that.
Yes, I like that. Stand up, step up, be proud. Go for it.
Well, that's the thing. Stand up, because what happens is here is that you're using the best of everybody to move you forward and to take that vision with you and then make that vision clearer and clearer. So like you want to effectively increase your prices or at least get a lot closer than where you were in stage one. And you're running the organization on a budget, but it's not like you know what's going on. I used to feel, before I understood these phases, like life and business was like ahead of me and I was here and I had to like catch up. And now at this point, if you follow this and really just take that time, you won't feel like it's ahead of you. Like I'm going to give this weird example, but I love
weird examples. Yeah.
So I used to do a lot of weightlifting, like in CrossFit. Cool. And years ago when I hurt my hip, it really helped me be able to walk again without surgery. But I used to feel like my weight was way higher than what matched Margo. And it was a lot because of my mindset of how I was running my life. And you want your internal and external to work. And this is where a lot of that shift is going to happen.
Cool. That's mindset shifting. Like that's exactly what's going on. It's
really, the boxes are falling into place.
Exactly. And when they fall into place, you're finally able to move into stage 3, which is scaling your organization. I love the image. You suggested this image because it is like standing at the top of the mountain being like, okay,
I can do this.
I got here. I mean, yeah, there might be another mountain you need to scale over, right? So like he's like looking at, okay.
Well, that's the thing in business. There is always a mountain. You know, as we outlined this, there is always something, you know. It's
a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's break down this phase a little bit more, just like we did with the other phases. So the name of the game here is solid systems, right? You're breaking 25K a month. You've got some really great income. You've got some consistent clients. Things are moving. You've got an awesome team. You've got incredible advisors who are supporting you. And now the goal becomes duplication and redundancy. So I'll explain what I mean about those, and then I'll pass it on to you for the last 2 points, right? But as far as it relates to duplication and redundancy, so duplication is this, right? If you have to leave and like step out, or somebody in your team has to step out, but the work can't continue or be duplicated, right? Or really it can't be repeated, right?
And you need to go back to stage 2.
Exactly. And then you've got some foundational work to do, right? But it's like, so the part of it's the duplication. It's like, if you can do it and teach somebody else to do it, and they can do it and teach somebody else to do it, and they can do it and teach somebody else to do it, then it's something that's duplicatable, right? Great.
Actually, sorry, one other thing I just realized is that going back to a stage, even though you broke the income, I just realized this can happen. So you may not need to go back because of the money. You may just need to go because of the processes.
Yeah, correct.
So it doesn't mean that you're just going that part, which is okay. And it's a temporary problem, not a long-term, hopefully. Exactly. And if it's more long-term, then you must call us.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes,
but
exactly.
I just wanted to make that distinction.
Well, that's a good point. And remember that when you're talking about an organization, because at this point, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about growing an organization. organizations are not fixed structures, they're organic, right? And just like every organic structure, sometimes you need to go back and take care of something because it's not well, or something, or the conditions or the environment shifted, right? So yeah, that is a good point. There is some reality of like kind of shifting to and from. Exactly.
It's like a realignment and like a tweak, shift, and a pivot.
Exactly.
Think of those types of concepts. And this is not where self-sabotage will come in, and it's okay. But I just want to make sure for you to, I can't say it enough, is that it may only be that part and not necessarily the whole stage.
Exactly.
And this is where our checklists are going to help.
Exactly. So I'll define redundancy, and then Margo is going to walk you through lead gen and marketing. But so we know duplication is that process. Redundancy is saying, if I or anyone on the team doesn't come to work tomorrow, that there's something that's going to trigger to take care of that in its place, right? So even though Joe doesn't show up to do the job of, let's say you're running a marketing agency, to write the blog article, because you've created redundancy in your organization and it was duplicatable, you've created redundancy. That means that Joanna is going to be able to pick right up where Joe left off, and the customer hopefully won't even know the difference, right? And so that again requires really smart, well-designed systems. That being said, let's talk about lead gen and marketing.
So building a sales team is going to be helpful here because there's going to be different areas. So I seem to be talking about a writer a lot, but it's like an example because it's the content of what you want to get out. So a sales team also could be like a VA having an assistant to actually be the liaison with that person, to put it in some type of app, let's say, so that it can get into that one-to-many. Now, leveraging automation is really awesome at this point because on a daily basis, without doing much, it can be working for you in the background. Now, you would think like, hey, if he wants to do the marketing and I'm doing the finance, why are we switching roles here? You know, where it's coming to me of like,
it's the dance.
It's the dance.
It's not one. It's not a solo. It's a duet, and it takes two to tango. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah. So the reason why this part I'm excited to share is because now you can afford it. Now you can afford it. But mastering that message, what we've been talking about through these slides, is going to be the investment worth it. Now, exactly. If you don't, to that larger market, mastering that message through these stages, when you're sending out the automation, it's going to be that garbage in and you're going to get the garbage out. You're not going to get that. You're just going to get no closes, no calls, and no pipeline.
Exactly. And this is actually a perfect point on like, people think, well, if I just tell the world about what I do. Yeah, that's
but it's not clear. You serve everyone, you serve nobody.
It's not clear. And it's also, your organization's not ready for it, right? Like if I post an ad, like a really great Facebook ad, like let's just say that, right? And it's amazing, and I post it, and I'm, let's just say it's for my marketing coaching services, or it's for your bookkeeping services, and let's just say it just goes on fire, and like hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs are like, I want to hire you. Well, that might be kind of a fun problem to have, but now all of a sudden you've got 100,000 people you got to sift through to find the 10 that you can actually serve if you're still in the launch phase, or possibly even in the growth phase, which is why the distinction here is it's like, this stage here, this scale stage is when you can actually start to master that MMO, as you call it, and really work towards achieving a larger market share.
Well, that's the thing too, is that 100,000, let's say, is only great if you mastered the message, because you're serving who you want to.
Exactly.
Versus like, this crappy client came in, or this junky client came in. And that does happen if you don't put out there what you want to get out of it.
Exactly. So we have a few more minutes left on our webinar today, so we're going to speed through the next set of slides. But just know that we're like so close to the end, right? So bringing that back now to the finance piece, right? So this is your time on the dance floor comes to this moment, right? Like this is a critical moment. So I'll walk you through some of these things. So one, as it relates to your finances, but really I'm going to say numbers, because it's not just about the numbers that show up on your profit and loss statement that matter here. It's like your KPIs. You're aware of the numbers that indicate the performance of your business.
So I'm just going to add there on the KPIs, you're going to want to get intimate with reports, you're going to want to look at them, not just get them from your professional. I
like
can't
actually look at them,
open up the email,
read them,
or the packet that they left you. I can't tell you how many people that, yeah, I got it, but I didn't get to it yet. And then they're upset with that person somehow, but they didn't do their part to that. So it's that we put their deeper awareness, but I'm going to take this a little bit deeper and say that intimacy with them and that awareness, that presentness, that presentness
I like that.
to that, you know, like I'm going to take this even a little bit differently and just get sexy and get into bed with it, because, you know, you really want to know what's going on. And it's that dance with the finance, that marketing and dance finance, you know, that we're talking about. You're going to have peaceful holidays, restful holidays when you have that information. Now, I'm going to add a little bit. I know you wanted to say a lot here, but the mindset at this point, sometimes getting that sexiness with the numbers can put people into that scarcity mindset of like, oh my God, what am I
not good enough?
I'm not good enough. And then they have this whole craziness on what they're spending on, but not realizing.
Or I need to look good. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, or like on impulse where it's like, oh my God, they spent $90,000 last year. Let me find somebody cheaper. You know, things like that. But it's developing the behavior. That is what's going to change the profit and get you to be able to keep moving forward and up that scale. Now, taking this into account when you're making decisions, you're not going to have doubt. You're not going to feel guilty. Going back to that couple who I started to talk to, they were feeling guilty for going away on a weekend. And they were like manning the computer every day. And I know how that feels. So you don't want to be in that position where if you go into the store and you want to buy an iced coffee and be like, can I afford this? Should I put it into the brewer today? Should I went to Costco versus, you know, Trader Joe's? And all those sorts of things come into account. And we're like, oh.
It sounds like a horrible way to be. And I guess that's the point, right? It's like you're monitoring not just your KPIs, but you're also monitoring your mindset and determining whether or not you're actually clear and being mindful about the choices, right? This is the decision-making process that Margo's talking about. Like you're making smart choices. And I love this line. You are a business owner, not a boss baby. A boss baby throws their weight around and says, I'm the boss. This is what I want to do. I don't care what anybody has to say. I don't care what my accountant has to say.
Oh, when clients tell me that, I tell them, oh, great. Tell me when you're available for a conversation with me.
Right. Available for, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it's not going to get you anywhere of like the should all over yourself as well. You know, so you want to be present and aligned with things, and you're going to feel like things are in place for yourself and it's clearer. Now, you want to do your job, not someone else's, and recognize that you are 100% responsible. And why do I say that is because at the beginning when we said about mastering yourself first, that's when stage 2 and stage 3 starts to outsource it to other people, that it's okay. And you're going to feel that you're not 100% responsible and that you have people to rely on. And you're building those stilts. You're not, because when you don't have those stilts, that's when you go into impulse and you go into scarcity mode. It's like impulse and scarcity mode, no stilts versus abundance, and then you feel secure.
Word. I love that. All right. So bottom line, and this is a good slide for you, consistency is the key to business growth in this phase, very particularly, and keeping your lane. Don't tell other people how to do their job. Micromanagement is not going to help you. Quality is important, but micromanagement is not going to help you. Stay in your lane, hire professionals, and do the thing that you do well and let other people do the thing they do really well, so that you can actually scale your business to get to the next
just
point.
Remember, the thief to all joy is to look at what other people do.
Exactly. So let's pull this all together to close up our seminar. And
I like this.
I know, I added that. Well, we're talking about dance and finance, right? So that guy can't do that without her, and she can't do that without him. It's like perfect balance, right? So here's the thing. Hire a CFO, please. Like when you get to the scale phase, please hire a CFO. Let them do their job. let them guide you, let them be the voice of the numbers so that you can listen to what they have to say and make really smart decisions and stick to the systems. We already talked about the importance of that. Ask lots of questions, even if they seem dumb, because the truth is you need to feel confident in your choices. And if you haven't asked the question because you were worried about looking good, like, oh, I'm the CEO, I should know the answers. Oh, I'm the boss, I should know the answers. No, you don't have to know all the answers. That's why you hire people. That's why you hire people that are better than you to do the jobs that you could never do.
And
right?
You could also consult Mr. Google.
Right, and of course, exactly.
You can consult
exactly.
Mr. Google.
Exactly.
Because you want to go for great business advice, even the dumb questions, because you don't want to feel like shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah.
But sticking to the systems and trusting the process.
Yeah.
Now, trusting the process is really, really key because it's that slow drip that can happen. Now, when you do more, it may not necessarily bring more, but it's also that judgment on that. When you're a great leader at this point, it's your willingness to listen. Like I was sharing like that before, because when you do more listening, you're able to serve better. And then you get to change people's lives and inspire and deliver your message, which is the most rewarding thing that you can ever have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly the case, right? And really what it boils down to, just to close out this slide, is it's about leadership, right? And it's about you deciding to be clear about who you are as a leader. And you know, I go back to the metaphor of dance as a perfect example. It's like if you're doing ballroom dancing and you're on the dance floor, you know, the misconception is that, you know, the guy is the lead and the guy just does the thing and the girl just follows along. Well, the truth is it's way more complicated than that. There are actually rules about how to flow on the floor, and it's an improvisation and a conversation between two human beings that are observing a set of rules. And there's listening going on. It's not just about, oh, if I 2 steps left, 1 step forward, 2 steps right. It's like, no, there's actually an improvisational conversation around a loose structure that allows for the thing to actually happen. And what it requires at the end of the day is clear, strong leadership from the person that's taking the lead on the dance floor, right? It's not a solo again, it's a duet. And as I said before, and we all heard this part, it takes 2 to tango. It literally does take 2 to tango when you're being a leader for an organization. So, yes.
I'm excited for you guys to be here still today and share, you know, that was perfect the way he put it. So I want to invite anyone who is on here for a business booster call. Now you're like, what is that?
I love business booster calls.
Yeah, we were talking about what to name this call because we wanted you guys to be like excited and jazzed up about this. And as you see, there's a lot of goodies to get. We offer a lot of checklists. Now on this call, it's going to be at first Mathew, and then it's going to be myself. On this call, it's going to be address your burning questions. Now, you could feel like you're in stage 1, 2, and 3. That's okay. You can still feel like you're in the pre-launch. That's okay too. And that's what that first 30 minutes is going to be about. And bring them all and we'll pack it in. Now at the end, we're going to decide a course of action that's okay for you. Now, him and I have been discussing all these different goodies to share and to offer and hours and what he's going to do versus I'm going to do. But the best thing that we want you to do is really just to call us and just share what aligned, what didn't align, and you can send that however you choose to the email. But I really want you guys to be on that call. We've took time out of our calendar for this because we want to hear what you have to say. You hated the presentation. You thought it was awesome.
Well, they loved it. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They didn't hate it. What do you hate?
Well, I want to know your favorite, what aligned, what were your superstar moments that were like, I want to be on the call with them.
Okay.
So on this call, be prepared, you know, shut off all distractions and just be prepared to be open with yourself and things. And then you're like, I'm open with myself, Margo and Mathew, but just to receive what we want to give you. And feel free to re-listen to the recording, you know, so that you can make the most of the time. There's no attachments, there's no strings. The call is completely free and optional, but we are
hoping and enjoy and looking forward to seeing you inside this call.
Awesome. Beautiful. So the email address is right there. Just email Margo. Let's get your call scheduled, your business booster call. And with that being said, have a beautiful day. Congratulations on the journey of entrepreneurship. And we can't wait for you to be $1 million agency as you grow your firm from launch to grow to scale. Have a wonderful day.
Bye, friends.
Bye-bye.